Hey everyone, welcome to another Haze Reverb video. I have gotten a couple of requests on making a guide to explain how the combat works. So in this one, it's going to be a part one and explains the basics of it, right? I want to talk about more advanced stuff in a separate video because I think it will take too long to talk about all of that and it'll be a big information dump. So I just want to focus on the basics so that hopefully you can understand how it works and hopefully learn enough that you can work out how to position your units for yourself. So first thing to understand is how the priority gets passed over. So priority gets passed over when a unit moves and does an active attack. The ones that will do active attacks will be the guards, the assault, and the heavies. But the heavies will be a very special case because it sort of depends on which heavy you're using. Now most heavies will charge up on their first round. When they charge up, they don't pass priority back to the opponent. But when they do launch their attack on the following round, that's when they will pass priority, right? Some heavies will have auto charge, which means they'll attack on the first round. For Vera is an example here. She does have a condition where she needs a certain number of units alive on her turn, like before her turn, and then she'll skip the charge stage, right? That's what this means. She will attack on round one, as long as you have 6 or more allies alive. So she's like an exception to the standard heavy rule. And then supports also do not pass priority over either. They will do their buffs, and then your the next DPS to move will then pass the priority. So that's a way to. It's important to understand that actually because this allows you to stack multiple buffs onto certain DPS, whether it's to increase their damage or the survivability. You can stack off multiple supports worth of buffs onto a unit to depending on what the stage entails, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. So supports and charge up do not pass priority. Now you will always get the first turn because you are the attacker. Whenever you go into a battle, you are always considered to be the attacker. The only times you're considered to be on defense is, or basically like acting second, is on PvP defense and also for Cosmic Showdown defense. So obviously you're not going to be playing yourself in that situation. The AI is controlling you. So that's why in that case you're acting second, and you have a separate core section where you can set different cores for your defense team if you want to. But basically just keep in mind that defense team uses defense cores, right? And in those cases, your team will be acting second, so you have to plan your team around that fact, right? Generally speaking, the attacker will have the advantage for moving first. So defense is a lot harder than offense to plan around. But that's a general gist of how turn priority is passed around. Now for the actual rounds and turns. So there's two different terms here. Round is referring to the whole cycle of attacks from both sides. So in one round, once everyone on both sides have moved and taken their turns, that round finishes, and then you go on to round two, and then it's like a rinse and repeat from whoever is on the first position on the attacker side, and you keep going from there. Turns are when you pass the turn to the next unit during the round. So for example, when I go from 1 to my number 2 like buffs, right? That's considered one turn, and then from 2 to 3, that is another turn. So that means during my first round, well, my first action, I have done 3 turns worth of actions in total. This is important for buff durations, right? So for example, Franca has a buff duration of 6 turns, right? Which is very short. It's like probably I think one of the shortest durations for like buffs in general. So she'll act on turn 1. One turn will pass with Krim, and then by the time you get to Coco, she'll have 4 turns remaining, right? Then the opposing side will move. They will do a bunch of support. Their supports will move, and then number 3 will move. Right. After that, then your number 4 will move. Let's say I put it like this, and I'm buffing like this. Right. By the time Skadi moves, the flanker buff I believe won't be there anymore. If I take it even a step even further and change the ordering like this, so that she's actually moving after Morgan plus another round of turns or another couple of turns from the opposing side, then I'll definitely run out of the flanker buff by the time Scuddy has moved. So you either keep that in mind with short duration buffs like Franca. Most of the better buffers usually will have a longer duration, like 9+ turns. In that case, it's a lot more difficult to like run out of durations before you actually move. This will be more important for things like crusade raids where you stack a lot of supports. In that case, usually you have to have Franca move fairly like late if you're running her, like as close to your deepest as possible, right? And yeah, that is sort of the general gist of it. Aside from that, you basically plan around the rest of like the turns, like how you want your units to move, like in what order, right? And whether you want to like maybe mix in like a taunt in the middle of it. So taunts are from, generally speaking, mostly guards, but there are taunts in both assault and also heavies. I have an example here. Well, for Gin, she is actually an auto taunter. So despite her being a heavy unit, she actually taunts at the start of the battle. Not this one. Here. So she'll taunt for 36 turns, right? So which is fairly long, but it doesn't refresh. That's the difference between here and also compare it to Nastia, who's also an auto taunt. So Nastia here will taunt for 9 turns, but this refreshes at the start of every round, despite the incorrect wording here, right? So it's actually at the beginning of every round, not the beginning of your turn. Then the other taunts would be the attacking taunters, which will be Farnese, is an example. She will have here, well, the active taunters will say after a normal attack, they will taunt for X number of turns. Alright, so that is an active taunt. And the general idea in combat is to make sure that you have some sort of taunt coverage to stop the enemy from hitting your units, right? That mostly to make it easier. You don't necessarily need to do that, but it definitely makes it a lot easier because then you can position your tanks almost anywhere and just keep them away from your squishy units. So for example here, let's say this one's going to move, right? Now, based on this attack pattern, it's going to attack my Caitlyn here and also the Franca. Now, if I have a taunt up, then it's going to attack the taunting unit. So for example, let's say I've got Nasty here, positioned here, right? And she's auto-taunting from the start of the battle. Once they have their turn, even though this looks like it's targeting the Caitlyn, it would actually attack the auto-taunt instead. Now, if I had my unit like this, that would be a risky play, and this is something you should avoid when placing your taunts and units near it. Unless you want a unit specifically next to it, which I'll probably go over more in the like advanced guide, but generally speaking, you'll avoid this, right? So you want to check the attack patterns of the enemy. There's not too many enemies here. It's mostly going to be like these like mosquito things and also the Zapars that you want to check the attack pattern for, right? So you can see the sort of dot on the Franca there. That's where it's targeting, and then the squares in front of her are where it's splashing, right? So if Zapar is going to attack the auto taunter, having Nastia positioned here is fine because the splash is going to be off screen and won't hit anything. But let's say if my Nastia was positioned here, I definitely don't want a unit here. I definitely do not want a unit here, right? Because with the attack patterns on these units, this is going to splash behind, and also Zapar is going to splash in front, so that you avoid positioning like that, right? Okay, so that is how taunts work. Now, I want to talk about Krim specifically here, because Krim's going to be a unit that you'll probably be using at the beginning of the game for a fair while because of the way she works. Now, she's very powerful in the beginning of the game because she has a charm ability. The charm is a debuff which will make the enemy attack itself or its own ally. So obviously that is very powerful because it's stopping them from doing damage to you and potentially killing their own units as well. This is especially important for units that are very dangerous, that have very high damage output. For example, with the Scorpions, they have like a basic almost like a suicide type attack. Those things will like really good charm targets. I'm pretty sure they're not charm immune, but you'll probably have to check that. Right, I haven't done progression in a long time. But you look out for units like those that might take out the unit on their side. So that will both protect your team and also accelerate killing off the enemy team. Now, one sort of I would say mistake a lot of people will make is that they won't put the ordering correct. So, for example, let's say I'm like this, right? So on my team, Franca is going to buff and Coco is going to attack first. Pilgrim hasn't moved at this stage, right? And she's targeting the number 4. Actually, no, this is not a good example. I wanted to change it like. I'm going to change it like this, right? Because on here, I'm trying to charm the number 3. Because the way she works is that she'll charm the next unit in line on the opposing side. So if she's positioned on number 2, she will target number 3 on the opposing side. On here, my Coco is going to attack first and pass the turn back over to the opponent. Then number 1 and 2 is going to move, right? And they don't pass priority back because they're supports. Number 3 would then move, which means that on the following turn when it passes back to me, my Crim is charming number 3, but it's already moved. So it won't get its turn back until the following round, in which case, in this case, Crim doesn't do anything. She's basically a wasted space. That is also like a very common mistake in PvP as well, where people will put Crim too late, and then especially when a lot of people run like too many supports on this side, or maybe you don't have enough support on your side to skip turns. Crim can often miss her charm that way, so you just have to be very careful. I do recommend to try to make a move on the first round if possible, and plan around that. So, for example, you don't want to charm number 3 and then kill number 3 because then the charm's wasted, right? But if you can charm number 3 and have your DPS attack something else, then that will mean that you can prevent that attack from hitting your side, and it buys you time and potentially lets them kill something on their side. So in order to do that, as like a bit of a worked example here, you would run Franca number 1, then you have Crim number 2, and then Coco number 3. Because in this case, the turn ordering will be Franca buffs these 3. Crim will then charm number 3. Coco will attack, and in this case, she will attack the taunters, right? Or one of the auto taunters, and most likely kill those off. And then they'll move. Number 3 will then attack itself or one of their allies, and then it'll pass back to you, right? Then on the following rounds, once units have died, let's say this number 3 ends up dying during that round for whatever reason, right? Maybe we splash some other attack to hit these 2 in front. Then Crim is assuming she's still number 2, she's going to charm the next unit in line that has moved up to number 3 position. So let's say a bunch of these units have died. Let's say number 3 has died, number 4 has died, right? Then the next unit to move up to the 3 position will be the Odora, because she's the next unit in line. So basically she takes over that position number 3, which means that Crim will then start charming the Odora instead, because obviously that unit won't be there. So that's how the turns change during the round, right? I think that is pretty much the main things you need to know as a beginner. As far as positioning and working around that, um, you basically want to look at how the attack patterns work. So I did explain how you can block off attacks with taunts, right? By either having an auto taunt or having a taunt move like early enough that that will taunt before the enemy attacks. In this case, let's say I am charming number 3. I don't actually have to worry about this unit moving straight away, which means I don't need my taunt unit to move straight after, or sorry, straight before Kokoro Kami, right? So Kokoro can attack first. This thing's charmed, can attack. Now is when I can have a active taunter move, right? Assuming I didn't have an auto taunt already up. So I would then swap the turn order like this. So then after this guy has done its charm attack, number 4 is going to move, right? And then she's going to taunt, right? Because she has a taunt. Then whatever unit moves after here, which will be the should be the Zappa, she's actually going to hit the taunt unit. So obviously I want to move it here because I know the attack pattern for her is this direction, right? The right side direction, and that way she's not hitting anything important. I don't mind hitting a Nastia, but I don't want like if she was here, then she'll be splashing onto my DPS, which I don't want to do. So I would move her here, right? Now, an alternative way to block off this guy's attack is simply to put the unit in its field of attack. So let's say I'm not taunting, I don't have any taunts up. I would put some sort of tanky unit like this, because if you read the skills here, it says prioritize the second unit in the row, right? The second unit in the row is Finance now, so now the targeting is on Finance. That way, this thing will attack Finance, and I want to keep this space empty so that it doesn't splash the attack, right? So that's how you would alter your positioning based off factors like that. And I think that pretty much covers the basics of the turn order and positioning and all that. I will talk about some more advanced positioning and how you can sort of abuse certain mechanics of the game. But I will talk about that in a separate video because that's sort of its own topic. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. If there's any basic stuff that you would like to know that I have missed in this video, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll answer that as soon as I can. Otherwise, I'll be covering the rest of the stuff in a separate video. I'm unsure when I'll cover it, but maybe in a couple of days or so after I have a bit of a break. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.